Hi, I'm Sally McFadden with the Polka Dot Life. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Huntsville, Alabama. Today, let's talk about those occasions that are difficult. We need to find a card, but we just can't find the right one. We don't really want to send it, but those are the cards that we need to send the very, very most. Hopefully, today will help you. We have all had occasions where we've had to send difficult cards. Maybe it's somebody that got a bad medical diagnosis or is going through a divorce, or we just wanted to encourage someone. This would work for that also. And so we're going to be using these two stamp sets from the new annual catalog. The Ridiculously Awesome. I know that's a crazy name for what we're making today, but this sentiment, let your faith be bigger than your fear, would be extremely appropriate in those situations. We're also going to be using the Swirly Frames stamp set. For supplies, we will need a pool party card base, a basic gray piece of cardstock, and 2 pieces of Whisper White. Don't worry about the measurements. Those will be all over on my blog post on thepolkadotlife.com. So to get started, we will also be using our pool party and our basic gray inks. So to start, we're going to bring in our Stampin' Pierce mat. Even though one of ours is a cling set, we wouldn't really need it for that, but we definitely need it with our photopolymer stamp. So we are going to take our Let Your Faith Be Bigger Than Your Fear stamp, and we're going to ink that up. And I like to just look at it and make sure that it's got ink on all the parts. I think my ink pad's actually getting a little dry. But I like to stamp it in the middle for this one just because we're putting that other stamp around it. And it won't matter if it's perfectly straight or not because we're going to cut it out. Then we're going to come in with our basic gray. And I'm going to shut this pool party before I stick my fingers in it. So with our basic gray ink, we are going to take the circle from the Swirly Frame set and we are going to ink it up. Now it is see-through, so that is great for lining it up. And it doesn't really matter unless you have a preference as how that pattern hits on that stamp. We're just going to put this aside for right now. And with our basic gray layer, we will cut out this largest scalloped piece from the center of that. Now I already have done that since my big shot is across the room, and I will have that here for us to use in a minute. And then also with our piece that we just stamped, we would bring this in and line this up. This is the largest regular circle from that die set, and we will die cut that as well. And I have one of those ready also. So the next step then is kind of messy and kind of fun. I'm going to actually bring this back in just in case I make a mess. And we're going to open up our pool party again. And this is where we are going to ink up our embossing folder. This is the tin tile embossing folder. And I just thought it kind of went nicely, kind of a little country look with our Swirly Frames. And we're going to be taking this piece that has the Stampin' Up logo on it, and we're going to be laying that down flat. And we're going to take our ink pad and get a little bit messy. How much coverage or how little coverage would depend on how you want it. I actually kind of like to slide mine and just to get some random ink markings or have it lighter or darker in some places. I just think that kind of takes away from a perfect pattern. And then we're going to take our second piece of cardstock, and I kind of like to maybe adhere mine down just a little bit. And I am actually, I've got a little blue tape here, and I am just going to kind of pick a point in this pattern. I'm going to line it up this way. You don't want to slide it because then it will make a little slide effect. And I will be right back. I'm going to take this over to the Big Shot and run it through. Here's how our piece came out of the die cutting machine. It is always fun to ink up your embossing folders. You never really know what you're going to get. It's always kind of random. Never really getting the same thing twice depending on what inks you use and what paper you use. You can do a whole lot of fun things with that. So we're going to pull out this mat, and we're going to bring in our trimmer. And I had you wait to cut this down until after we embossed, because it kind of sometimes can stretch or shrink your paper depending on, you know, humidity and all kind of different things. So we are going to take this to 5 1/8. And again, these dimensions will all be on the blog, so you don't have to worry about it. And then we are going to take it down to 3 7/8. So this was pretty close. All right. So we're going to bring in our silicone craft sheet, and we are going to adhere this down. You always want to make sure that you use a lot of glue whenever you are putting down something that's been embossed, or whatever adhesive. I would not recommend like a tape runner type thing for this, although we do have a new one out called Seal Plus that might do a good job. I just haven't tried it. But I also want to do it this way because I usually end up putting glue that on this layer, and that hole is there, so I usually end up making a mess. So we are going to adhere this down, and it's just going to be a nice, a nice little border around this, just to kind of wake things up. And again, it gives us our little wiggle room that we love to have. All right, and the silicone craft sheet is keeping everything nice. Set that layer aside for just a moment. I'm going to show you the finished card so that you can kind of see what we are doing. We're going to use some of this new sheer Pool Party ribbon, and I think it's so pretty. And I just thought that it softened up the card a little bit, and it just, I love ribbon. I love all the textile kind of things. So most cards you will see that I probably do use some sort of a ribbon or embellishment like that. So we need to put that ribbon on before we continue. So here is our ribbon. It's just such a light sheer ribbon. It's great. I am going to be perfectly honest with you. I do not tie bows all that well. And so I admit my weakness, and I will tell you that what I use is called a Bow Easy. I got it from Amazon. You can, I think, also get them on Etsy, probably a little bit cheaper, or just search for them and you should be able to get the information. But you are more than welcome to do it however you would like to. I did a triple bow, and I used this side right here, and we will give it a try of doing this on tape. I just take and I leave an extra long tail because we're going to be putting that around our card. And so for 3 bows, I just want to wrap 1, 2, 3 times. And then I'm going to leave extra at the end. Okay. And you just actually bring it over and you put it down through the Bow Easy. And you just kind of fish it down through there. But you kind of leave this little part popped up, and that's why you want to leave a little bit extra. You're going to bring this tail up through this groove, and then you just tuck it down through here in the opposite way from which you started. So then you just pull it tight, and you have your bow. Now you can leave it this way, or if you like me, I like a really tight center knot. You just take your tail, fish it back down through, and the same with this one. And then you just kind of flip it over and give it a little pull on this side. Sorry, that probably dropped out of frame a little bit. But then you just slide it off, and it just makes a really nice little simple bow. Well, actually, this is a pretty elegant bow, I think, but you can do it for however many loops and whatever sizes, you know, that you want. So we are actually going to pull our tails a little bit to the side, and we're just going to put that aside for a moment. We're going to bring in our silicone craft sheet again. And we're going to layer up our sentiment. And you can see I had done a trial run and messed that up. And we're just going to get this the way that we want it. There's no right or wrong, just kind of however you want your little scallops at the end. So we are going to put dimensionals on the back. And then we're going to take our tool, or take your pick tool, and take the backings off. I think they all came off. And then, like I say, I always like to put a little bit of glue on the underside of my dimensionals. That's doubly important today when we're going to be putting this on that embossed layer. And like I say, it just needs some extra holding power sometimes. And I just kind of put this right in the center. Kind of figured out that my eye kind of went along that center in the pattern. But you don't have to be that specific. So we've got that down. Then I'm going to bring in my tear and tape. Again, with the extra heavy adhesive. This is tear and tape. It is great for 3D projects. I use it a lot for ribbon and those sorts of things. So we are going to turn our card over. You'll see that I had gotten some on the back of that cardstock glue. I think I tried to glue it down to something else at one time. And we are just going to put that down there. Now I've lost my place on the tape. I'm going to put some down. And we're going to go ahead and actually peel that off because it's not going to stick to that that silicone mat. And I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool. I hope that you all are doing well and getting out and enjoying some of the nice sunshine since it's getting warmer outside. So I also want to take a little piece, not much. You might just want to make sure it's not longer than your bow. But I want to put this, and I want to actually slide this kind of down under that scallop portion. I'm going to give it a little rub and make sure that it sticks well. This is just going to anchor our bow so that it lays nice and tight against that scallop portion. I'm going to do it to where my tails would be coming out this end normally. I think it just curves in nicer towards the sentiment. And so we're just going to put that on. And I probably overshot on my tails, but I'm one of these people that I'll save it. I'll use it for something else. And we're going to trim. And I just don't like having to fight by not having enough ribbon. All right, and then you just kind of manipulate this however you want. I am going to take this and just, you might just have to play with it just a little bit here. And I just want that to tuck down in there. And if you need to, like mine has kind of gotten a little longer on that side, you just come back and you just loosen it up. And that's the other reason I like that tear and tape, that you have some open time to work with it. And like I said, just have to fuss at it just for a little minute, not too long. And if you didn't want to wrap your ribbon around there, you could always just put a bow on this later after it was glued together. Okay, we are going to bring in our card base and we are going to adhere this down. I'm gonna not put a lot there because I don't want it to squirt out over the edges, but we want to get some coverage there. And I want to make sure that I get that really good there on that embossed portion. I just want to give it a good press. And some people, if you want to open it up and give it a little press here too, that's fine as well. To complete my card, I just brought in that additional layer. And we're going to use this just straight across little stitched piece and put it into our Pool Party ink pad. And sometimes it helps to have grid paper actually. You know, we do need to have this underneath here. And I am just going to put that across the bottom. And I'm going to glue that inside of my card. And then I will finish it off with this envelope that I have just done that same stitching on those two sides. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you had a good time. If you would like to request one of Stampin' Up's newest catalogs, please visit thepolkadotlife.com to request one, and I'd be happy to get one out to you. Remember, be kind, send a card, and do something creative. Thanks.